Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Boone Show on My Pulse Radio. Great show here tonight, as we've got a bunch of guests in the studio to talk about basketball, which is always cool when we're talking about sports, but talking about one of a kind in basketball too, as we have as our very special guest, the franchise, as Blake calls him, Fran Campbell, coach of Wren High School for 42 years, just announced he's going to be retiring.
Of blue and gold in here today.
Yes, we do. And his replacement is here, Darrell Jackson. Mm-hmm. And Blake is here, Blake Miller, graduate of this program. One of my kids, voice of the Wren Broadcasting Network. And he's here because he's followed this team for several years now. And obviously at a turning point in the whole program that no one's known since the years that I was in high school. That's how long Fran Campbell has been around. He's been around for 42 years. I would have been going into my senior year, the first year that he coached at Wren. So amazing. And Coach, we'll just kick it off with that. Do you ever kind of just think back about how amazing of a run that is?
Yeah, I have because when I see somebody and I go they go, yeah, I was a student of yours in 1983. I go, well, I remember you, but you'll have to help me with the name.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
I can imagine.
And it's really neat when you see some of these kids that you taught and, of course, players that you coached, and, they remember little details about, events and stuff, and it just makes it all come back to you.
Yeah. Well, for people that don't know, did you have a question, Holly?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're probably at the stage now where you are coaching the children or the grandchildren of those that came through.
Well, I've coached all my own grandchildren. And today's not a normal day, but there's no track meet or anything. I've got grandchildren at Wren and Powdersville, so it keeps me busy. But yeah, I've like a good friend of Coach Jackson's, Wendell Rhodes. I coached him and his son, who teaches and coaches track at Wren now. So I've got a legacy within a legacy. So I've had the Tom Merritt and his children, Bill White and his children they all played, and there's several others then all the Franklins,
what
their
you said there's 10 of them altogether, I think? Something like that?
I think 13 legitimate Franklins and a couple that they brought in that aren't really Franklins, but they live with them, so probably a total of about 16 at one time.
Wow.
But 7 boys.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Think about how many of those you've touched somewhere along the way, whether it be teaching or coaching, and then all of those that you've come in contact with that maybe didn't necessarily be a coach. Maybe you were a teacher at that point. That's a lot of legacy you've got.
It is a lot, and I'm grateful for it every time I think about how many kids, I can't even imagine what the total number of students I've taught over the years, especially when you consider teaching like semester courses or quarter courses. You're getting 300 or 400 a year.
Oh yeah.
And you do the math on that times 42. That's a lot, and then you're talking about in basketball you're talking about 15 or so a year. That's a lot. And then I was at Greenville High for 7 years. So I still meet with some of those kids that are retired people now. Yeah, I played golf with 3 guys from Greenville High that I taught, and one of them's a federal judge. The other one's a retired teacher.
Wow.
They're all 63 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the phone lines. We have one of your former players who's turned into a pretty good coach of his own. Austin Anderson, I believe, is on the line. Hi, Austin. Good, good, good. We're here with Coach Campbell, Coach Jackson, also here, and I just wondered if you could share maybe a little bit about your time with the coach way back when.
What's up, Buck? Yeah.
Oh, so you've learned some sideline demeanor, because I see that sometimes you get a little active on that sideline. It's passion, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Any other specific memories that you had? Because you were on some pretty good teams. When you start to last this long, obviously you have to have some sort of passion, Coach. So, and obviously you have
Passion or insanity?
well, yeah, doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's special, both of you guys and Coach Jackson here as well, to have that passion for the student athletes, as well as the passion to try to win. Yeah. Well, you have a new thing going on. In fact, we have a little like carousel here in the studio here of coaches, because you're headed over to Easley, and we got Coach Jackson, who's headed from Easley to Wren, and we got Coach Fran, who's headed to the beach. But
Off course.
so obviously, it's a good situation for you as we speak of your opportunity, as Coach Jackson knows from being there for the last couple of years, to get easily on the right track and winning ways. Well, best of luck to you. We appreciate you calling in and sharing a memory with Coach Fran. And we'll be talking to you again soon at some point as you get that program rolling over there.
Love you, Buck. All right.
All right. That's Austin Anderson. Of course, we've had him on several times as coach of Powersville High School, moving over to Easley. And as mentioned, Easley's coach for the last 2 years has been Darrell Jackson. And he is here in studio because he's moving over to the job he always wanted anyway, which was to succeed Coach Campbell. Tell us how all that came about. Was Coach Campbell just not leaving in time? You had to go somewhere else? Because he was just going to live forever in that job? Or
It looked like it.
But now you finally got it. So you've got to feel excited. You've worked with Coach Fran for so long anyway, and now to take the reins, I can imagine a bunch of feelings going through you right now.
It is. It's still kind of a surreal moment. The reason I left, me and Coach Campbell actually had to talk about it, and he told me, he said, you need to take that job. But it was never about me waiting for him. It was more so opportunity was presented to me, and I felt like it was a golden one, and I couldn't turn it down. Obviously, my son was about to be a ninth grader, so it involved him too. And I just thought it was the best situation for me and also for him.
Now, is he staying over there at Easley? Is he coming with you?
No. He's coming with me.
That's what I thought.
Come
There we
on,
go.
man.
He's being a little modest here. He's a good player. He was like their leading scorer, was he not?
He
or
was.
close to it?
He led us in assists and steals.
Yeah.
He was all region.
Yeah.
His freshman and sophomore year. This year was a little rough. He hurt his ankle, so he was out about 5 weeks of the season, which slowed him down some. But he came back, and obviously it changed our team.
Yeah.
Because when he got hurt, we were 7-0. And so we took a hit, obviously, with your point guard going down. But he's super excited. He always made a comment. All his siblings, parents went to Wren, so he's excited to be able to graduate from Wren as well.
There you go. Coach Fran, you had the opportunity, as you've mentioned, to coach your kids, grandkids. What are some of the challenges when you're coaching your kids and grandkids?
Well, some of it he's probably already learned it easily. You can't make everybody happy, especially if your son's playing instead of somebody else's son. It doesn't matter how good they are. It's, like I remember my son said to me, he says, "Dad, I really want to play at North Carolina." I said, "Well, that's a nice goal to have." I said, "My goal for you is to be able to play good enough for Wren High School that I don't get fired." So we actually almost accomplished all of it. He played at PC instead of North Carolina. Same blue and stuff, but he's still a North Carolina fan.
Blake, you got something to add here? You haven't said anything yet.
I know.
What's up, Blake?
What's
I'm looking at a mythological creature to my right.
Yeah, a unicorn. These things don't exist.
From my perspective, just being able to grow up, it's so wild. Even looking at the 42 as someone that went all the way through the Wren school system, it just still doesn't make sense in my head, because after watching the last 3 years, of course, I watch you win a state championship. I watch you almost do it numerous other times in this last 3-year period, and it's like, how does this guy get up for work every day and keep pushing guys at a guy like Baba Franklin, who he knows how talented he is, but he knows I mess up. Fran Campbell's waiting on me at the bench. He's going to tell me what I did wrong, how to fix it. I just want to know your headspace in the last decade or so as this is coming to an end.
Well, I think it's like if you talk to like Coach Jackson when he played, or you talk to somebody else that played even earlier than that if you don't change as a person and a coach, the game is going to change. And if you don't change, you're going to get left behind. Like I was, when I first started, there was no 3-point shot. And I was pounded inside like everybody else. And I dreaded the change. And then when it got here, I loved it. So anytime there's a change, I look at it like it's just progress. From now they're wanting to go to shot clock. I'm all in. I think it's good for the game. It's supposed to be a fast-paced game. As soon as they cut the bottom out of that peach basket where the ball would go through, it started speeding up, and we shouldn't do anything to stop it. So I'm in favor of that. I'm also in favor of. I think we need to go with the circle underneath the basket for the charges, for safety, and also to speed up the game, unclog everything, where you can drive to the basket without somebody jumping in front of you.
And then ask Rhett Warga if he can get another year, and we can get him back.
Yeah, get him back with that thing right there, and he'll be good to go. That's right. But I think you have to change, because life changes, and if you don't, I watched a thing last night on Bobby Knight, and that was he was a great coach, but he never changed, and eventually that did him in.
Right.
You know, you can't do things the same way. I mean, some of the crazy drills I had him do, and he never questioned. He just dove on the floor and hit his head or whatever it was. You know, kids are different now than, you know, like he never questioned anything. Now everybody questions everything. You know,
Well,
like
that's what I was going to ask. What have you seen in the last 40 years with your students changing, both your students in the classroom, but more so your students out on the field, out on the court? Where have you seen the most change in your kids? I know you've seen it in parents as well.
I was going to say the most change I see is the parents' involvement in a bad way, just like when I coached him, he never questioned anything. Nobody in his age group never questioned anything. The parents didn't question anything. Now it's everybody's got a floor. Everybody's got, because of the media and everything else, social media, everybody's got a platform. And everybody gets to voice, you know. I told somebody when I retire officially, I might get on Facebook or something, but right now I don't even get near it. I don't want to hear, you know, how bad I'm doing or how good I'm doing.
And I'm sure that comes with your family as well. I'm sure your wife, children, all of those hear it as just as much as you hear it.
Oh yeah. It's like my wife usually tries to sit like away, so she doesn't hear, you know. And I know, like when you're coaching, you can't make everybody happy. You know, when you substitute, you're taking one child out, somebody's child out, and putting in another person's child, and they don't see practice. All they know is my child is really good. He's a good kid. Everything else, you know, they don't see that. And I think, really, it's the same way in a classroom. Mm-hmm. You know, like before, if you said, you know, well, he didn't turn his work in, well, nobody would question it. Now that they want proof. Well, here's a 0. You know, no, that's not enough. You got to show every little thing. Everything is questioned, you know, and everybody's got, you know, a voice. And I think, you know, when you know, there's a difference between supporting your child and defending your child. Supporting your child means you're giving them all the resources possible for them to be successful. Defending them sometimes is giving them a crutch. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not just sports. It's in the classroom too. I mean, I teach way more than I coach. You know, I'm coaching kids 2 hours a day, and I'm 7 hours a day in the classroom, and my salary is based on my teaching, not my coaching. The coaching is a supplement, right. And it's like driving a bus or something. It's not, you know, they can let you go anytime too because it's a supplement. But I see the same thing in the classroom that you see in sports. Mm-hmm. I think they mirror each other. And I think, you know, if you're going to be a good coach, you have to be a good teacher first. And I think that's, you know, like I tell our kids, I said, this gym is a classroom. You pay attention like it's a classroom. You act like it's a classroom. You speak like it's a classroom. If you don't do it that way, then you're going to get the same consequences that if you're in my classroom and you're disrupting it. I said, you're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think, you know, it's important to make sure they understand it. It's not, you know, there's a certain way to act in a classroom and a certain way to act, and that gym is a classroom. That football field is a classroom. That track is a classroom. The language you use should be the same you use. You know, it shouldn't change. It shouldn't be, you know, like we don't, and Terrell will tell you, we don't use profanity with them, around them, nothing. And if they do, they're disciplined like it's a classroom violation.
So Blake, being the young man in the room compared to the rest of us, what do you think of that aspect of Coach Fran? To me, that's pretty impressive for a guy that's been around that long, has been able to adjust, and has such a perspective about how players should play and such. And the Bobby Knight example was great. Didn't fall into that trap where Bobby Knight just frustrated himself to death and he had to get out of it. What do you think, as someone, you know, younger of age, seeing an older coach? Because a lot of times people see the old heads on the sideline and say, oh, yeah, they're just going to play the old-time basketball. But he's been one to adjust. How does that make – two questions here. How does that make you feel as a young man towards that coach? And do you feel like you could do a basketball podcast with him now that he's retiring and you guys could just talk basketball every week?
100%. He can talk Michael Jordan, LeBron all day. We did it in history class. We can do it on a podcast.
But I added Bryce's jersey to my classroom yesterday.
All right.
We can talk Bryce McGowan's as well.
Yeah.
But that Bryce McGowan's, Trey McGowan's, excuse me, Baba Franklin as well, it just shows you a respect for a guy that, as a young guy, you would look at and you're like, they probably don't respect him. But he's done it for so long, proved it over and over, that leads it into respect. Also, he adds a guy in Coach Fox, who's been a part of the really good run, I think also helped in that aspect. His son, as well, being on the coaching staff, gives a little younger voice. It's like I said earlier, everyone at Wren coming up through high school, you instantly have a respect for Fran Campbell, but then once you watch him coach, it's like, it's not just respect, it's like he's as good as anybody. So it's like you almost expect it from him to change with a game, to be able to do it next year. I think even after he retired, everyone kind of looked around like, what are we talking about?
No one knows life without it.
That's impossible.
And Coach, why now to retire?
Well, I kind of thought this was, to be honest with you, I thought I would retire after I won the state championship or after we won the state championship. But then I still had a grandson there, and I don't know, just something special about coaching your own. And then in the meantime, one of my own, Pro Franklin, moved his son in, and so then I felt obligated, you know, to stay. And then the other thing was there were a couple of guys that were on the state championship team that were sophomores, and I felt like, you know, I couldn't leave them hanging either. So then I kind of had in my mind that this was it, but I didn't want to say anything because I looked at what some people did. I'm not saying that I'm on the level of Dean Smith or Mike Krzyzewski doing the farewell tour thing, you know. I just thought as quietly as possible, I would just go in and one day and say, thank you very much, but this is it. But I will tell you, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about waiting till the basketball banquet, which was April 15th on tax day, the old tax day. Anyway, so here's what happened. I'm watching the news. My little pattern is I watch the news and 4 comes on first. I watch the sports on 4. Then I flip it to 7. It was on a Wednesday night. And it came on with about the high school league passed a new eligibility transfer rule. Mm-hmm. And they have it printed up there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, I'm not ready for this. You know, it could be good or it could be disastrous. And I thought, so I went in the bedroom, I told my wife, I said, I'm thinking it might be time now. And she said, are you serious? I said, yeah. So the next day I went in and talked to Stan, and he said, do you want to wait till the 15th? I said, it doesn't matter to me. I said, I'll do it whenever you want. He says, how about tomorrow? I said, let me talk to the players, and I'm with tomorrow. So that was it. It happened that quick. You know, like no indecision or anything. I just, that kind of told me, you know, I'm going to have to adjust again, you know, and I'm 77 years old. That's asking a lot to you know, like I've done that before. I've done the whole AAU and tracking kids and just like Darrell, carrying them all over the place in my Zuzu Trooper, you know, up and down the road to Atlanta and Winston-Salem. Okay, I'm a grandfather. I'm not ready to do that all over again. Yeah. And I think that's what's going to happen. He's ready. He knows what it's going to be. He knows what it's going to take. And it's going to take, you know, more around the clock type action to be able to compete. And he's the right man for the job. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, that new rule. But on the phone line, we have our regular sports guy who's kind of skipping the sports end of it because he is a Wren graduate, Zachary Howard, and has watched a ton of Wren basketball, just about everything Wren. So I know he had some words he wanted to say to Coach Campbell. Go ahead, Zach. I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's only a mother could love. Yeah, there you go. There's somebody for everybody.
Yeah,
is
you
what
better
they're saying.
stay with her, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Zach, you're wrong if you don't think I don't remember you. The other thing is like everybody says, well, he gets off subject. Listen, I'm constantly working. Getting off subject is part of the game. And if you remember that, then you're going to remember something of history too. So, Yes, you were in a classic class of U.S. history, because it was like we had some of the best students and worst students in the same room. No, I did not. No, I did not. But I remember Eli being in there. He was a lot quieter than you.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he was a great player. Yes, that would be Laura Richland, yes. 2017. How am I going to forget that? Thanks for bringing that up, Zach.
What was it? Tell the story
Yeah,
now.
gotta hear it.
Hey, tell the story.
Yes, right. It is. Yeah. You did bring up a bad memory, but hey, it's a memory.
Yeah, I hear you. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for calling. Yeah, he calls into our show every week. We talk about
does he?
sports, and
Yeah.
and he said today he texted me and said, "I'm not really going to talk about sports because I know you got a lot to talk to Coach about, but I just want to give some nice words." And it's good to hear from him. And it was a great story.
He's a character for sure.
It's a great story. He may not remember anything from your history class, but he's got the newspaper story.
You're right. He's got that, and he's got the Eli White sitting next to him, who was a good student. Maybe that's how he got. Maybe that's how he got through there. But yeah, I think the relationships you have with the students is as important, if not more important, than what you have with the players. You spend all this time with your players. I think I've really strived to have relationships with the students, and then when I have a player in my class, I do everything possible not to treat them like different, like not give them basically any advantage at all, because when you go in the classroom, it's not the same as the basketball court, So everybody's equal there, and I got to make sure I don't, let them do something that I wouldn't let another student do. And I think the relationships I have with the students is far longer lasting maybe than the basketball, because like the guy that works in my car, he didn't play basketball. The guy that does my electrical work didn't play basketball. They all went to Wren, and I all taught them history or something, but I have relationships with them just like I do my players. And I think that's how you stay in it this long. Otherwise, if all it is coaching basketball or all it was teaching, I don't know if 42 years would have been possible.
Yeah.
But when you look at it the way I look at it, as far as I'm an educator that coaches basketball.
Yeah, and in class, Holly, in class you can't put people on the bench. I mean, they're all kind of
That's right.
they're equal.
That's right.
So
Although you want to.
Some of it you want to put under the bench.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But I had a question going back to that new rule that you were talking about, just real quick while we have Blake here and Coach Jackson. It's almost like the portal for high school now, with kids going all over the place to wherever they want to go to high school. Blake, you start with this, and then I want to hear what Coach Jackson thinks about that changing playing field that you have to deal with now to be able to get the best team on the
jumping in
court.
with both feet.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
I won't let Coach Jackson or Coach Campbell take the heat. This is my take.
Okay.
This is something that I think a lot of high school coaches in all sports know across the state is this is a rule that they are implementing, but it's been happening. That's I think the problem with most people in their head is like, okay, we're just making something that was kind of in the shadows be okay now, which is like as someone that's younger, it's kind of something of putting everyone back on an even playing field where no one's going to get the advantage of we can take your players, but you can't take our players. Now everyone's up for grabs again, almost like he talked earlier about like you just said, like a transfer portal. I think in high school basketball, it's going to help teams like Oren or West Side that have been good at basketball. And then the teams that you see at the bottom, it could hurt a little bit more if they're losing their best player year in and year out. So I'll let Coach Jackson piggyback off that, but I think basketball, high school basketball at least, is hopefully for the better after something like that.
I do agree with Blake. I think it's implemented to kind of level the playing field a little bit. But also, obviously playing for Coach Campbell and coaching with him, a place like Wren is a lot different than other places. We've always had family atmosphere, strong community, a lot of pride. So I think, obviously, we may get a transfer or two, but a lot of our kids will be homegrown just because of that community pride and the self-pride and the way we build our kids from our rec program on up. Like Coach Campbell, he used to referee the rec games. And then as I came up, I refereed with him. I was a high school student refereeing rec league games. And you don't see that a lot of places, just like at kids camp he's had for 20, 30 years.
38 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't fortunate to go to it, but I did work it. And so when you have things like that, I just think like he's talking about other places, how it affects them a little more. A lot of our kids, they're blue and gold through and through. They're born that way. They come up that way. I was fortunate the same way. Coach Campbell, he used to pick me up when I was in diapers. Our story goes all the way back to basically my birth.
Wow.
So I just think it's going to affect some places in different ways, but I know at Wren, it's a lot different. It's a lot different. And I'm proud that I was a part of it as a kid and a player, and I was there as an assistant coach and now as the head coach.
Yeah. All right. Well, like he says, the times they are changing. They always are, and athletics are seemingly changing even quicker nowadays with all the new ways to get money, talking mainly about college and all that. But, of course, the recruitment process now, when they're coming to your high school and recruiting, Blake, as you're big on with like the draft this past weekend and all that, this new rule, of course, plays in a lot to that, of where the major schools are really going to get the exposure.
Yeah, no, I tell Austin, our media guy, Ren a lot, is we're not just giving these kids a platform to play sports. A lot of the times, kids may have a different family situation than others. We're their marketing team. We are the only people that are going to talk about these kids. If no one else nationally or statewide is going to talk about them, we got to be the guys to talk about them, give them a platform, be like he talked about earlier with social media, their voice sometimes because they can't be their own.
Right. Right.
And of course, he's also gives them nicknames and stuff too.
Yes, he does. He is.
Yeah. I
get envious of some of the nicknames you come up with. I was like, man, I could never come up with that. That was a good one, Blake. From Piedmont. But I did want to ask you, Coach, too, because I'm curious. Have you ever sat down and thought about your coaching tree? How many people have coached with you that are now in charge of other programs? I mean, obviously you've got one sitting next to you. But there's got to be a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, I would say probably 7 or 8 that are, some of them no longer coaching. You know, I've been in it so long, some of them are out.
They've had nice careers,
have
but
nice
they're
careers.
done.
They've retired.
Yeah. But, you know, just, I don't know, I'd say, like, as far as coach, I'd say 7 or 8, but I'm actually maybe more proud that I think we've developed more ministers than we have coaches. And I think that's, you know, like, I had a team like in '86, I think there was three kids that became ministers. And
Wow.
yeah, so I just think we have a family type atmosphere, and you know we basically stick together through it all. And you know, like Darrell's best friend is a teammate who wasn't a very good player, but they were like best friends, and they still are. And he's in Atlanta, Georgia, and like it just
Community.
it's community you have that ends up going like to Texas and to, you know, like Oklahoma and stuff, you know, like where but they still keep in touch with each other, you know, and you know, it's just I think basically the atmosphere we've tried to have it at Wren just keeps growing. You know, they're having kids, and it can't be too bad a place where so many of them move back here.
Yeah.
But yeah, my son included, I think on the team he was on, I think there was Richie, and there was 3 on the same team with my son being one of them that were ministers. And Chad Campbell, who's a minister at Mount Pisgah. I mean, people thought with his last name we were father-son combo back in the early '90s, but yeah, it's a lot of family, a lot of, you know, people like Johnny, who
we're hoping to hear from here in a minute.
Yeah, I
by the
thought
way.
we were hearing from him. Yeah,
He's a little late.
But yeah, he's going to be a minister of some sort. I don't know what, but he did a pretty good job of preaching in our locker room. I can tell you that. I know you're not supposed to have it in your locker room, but we're old school when it comes to that.
And a little segue on that, to that championship team. He really became a leader, didn't he? During that process of, it seemed like that whole year that team was developing. It seemed like at the beginning of the year, Blake, you can speak into this, but we were talking to Johnny in class all the time that, you know, he didn't even think they were really that good, but they just kept getting better and better and better as the year went on. And lo and behold, they win the last game of the season, which is what every team wants to do. And Johnny just became a real leader. And looking back on some of those videos of the games and the celebrations afterwards, he's all around congratulating it. And he was the outstanding player, right? Just an incredible season there in 23. How is that different from so many near misses that you had in other years?
It made it sweeter.
Yeah.
It really did. And to have it with that team, which, you know, you could say was not talent-wise as good as some of the other teams. But team-wise, they were the best team. You know, what does Michael Jordan say? It's not it's not the talent, it's the team that wins. The most talented doesn't always win, but the team that plays together will win.
Yeah, that was a perfect example of it that year, because nobody thought at the beginning, Blake, couldn't you say that?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have a superstar on that team.
Going into that year, you kind of felt like, okay, you just don't know what it's going to be because you're coming off the McGowan's kind of era of basketball, and it's kind of, man, Ren's been at the top of the mountain point, feels like multiple years in a row. We don't know much about this Johnny Weissong kid who's going to play forward, who's played a year before, but maybe didn't show off his true talents until his senior year. A guy like Jacob McQueen, who I wish I was lying, didn't know he was on the basketball team until I was told that I was going to commentate basketball for Ren, and end up find out he's another one of those senior leaders. And then you just had these three kind of in-the-wind sophomores that maybe they'll pan into something, maybe they won't, and it ends up being Brock Cherry, Wet Warga, and Cal Godfrey, who've become the focal points of a state championship team. Brett Oregon, Brock Cherry hitting maybe the 4 biggest free throws in Ren basketball history. That team going into the year, you didn't feel like it was up to the challenge, but as you said, developed
Just kept
into
winning.
something.
Just kept winning. And, some of the games weren't the prettiest thing, but they just kept winning. And that's, like you said, Coach, is believing in each other and having each other's back. And that's why those kind of seasons are just really special.
Right.
Even if they hadn't won the championship, it would have been really special.
It would have. I just think that they, because of the leadership of those two seniors, especially Johnny. Johnny's a leader of men. Whether it's, I don't care what it is, it's a picnic or whatever it is. He's a leader. He, even in college, he was only, this was his sophomore year, but he was a leader of the team at CIU. So, your leader doesn't have to be a senior. Your leader just has to be a person who everybody respects and nobody questions their work ethic. That's all you have to have. You don't have to have anything else. If you're just that, then you can lead. And sometimes that's a difference between a good team and a great team. And that was a difference for us in 2023, was we had that leadership, that always positive attitude, to the point where sometimes I had to calm things down, we're pretty good, but we can be beaten, if we don't do everything we're supposed to do. Like he'd look at film and he'd come back and he'd say, "Oh, they're not very good. They're not, I said, okay. I said, you do the scouting report, and I'll do the scouting report, and then we'll compare. So that's what we did the whole second half of the season. Whoever we played next, he'd do the scout report, I'd do the scout report. We'd compare the two, and we'd all find our own little flaws in it, but it also it also gives, the more ownership the players have in a team, the farther your team's going to go. When they're responsible for the practice, when they're responsible for the locker room, so I don't have to go in there and police the locker room. I don't have to. If they do that themselves, that's part of the ownership. If all I do every time I do the scout report and give it to them, they don't appreciate it as much as when
They did it
they
themselves.
do it.
Yeah, took ownership. Yeah.
Take ownership in it, and they're responsible. Like we assign, and Coach, we say, okay, you're going to guard Blake, number 12. you give me the scouting report on number 12. You give me the scouting report on number 10 or whatever it is. Everybody's got to, and we'll get that together, and then it means more to them than I just do it all for them.
That's right.
And they pay attention a little bit more to the scouting report when they're invested in it. Instead of, I think also like it gets them ready for the next level. If they're able to play on the next level, they already know how to break down film. They already know how to do a scouting report. They already know how it's all done, and therefore they're ready, and they get input in the practice plan. They want to know what we're going to do today, and if they think there's something we need to work on, then all they got to do is tell me, and we'll put it in there in some form of what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. When, of course, you won it all in 23, was there any point in your career, such a great career, and that was the first one, was there first championship, was there any point that you were wondering if it would ever happen, or you doubted yourself at all, or did it matter that much as long as you just had great teams to finally get that championship leading up to it? Was there any wonder if it would ever happen? 40 years.
Okay, well, the first time we went to the state championship game was 1994. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it was I guess an underrated team, kind of like this last one in 23, and I didn't know whether we'd get another one after that one, because we went there and we played Eau Claire High School, who was number 6 in the country in USA Today, and they had 2 NBA guys on the team. Had Jermaine O'Neal and Bud Johnson, 7-footers. And we're playing 3A basketball, and that's who we have to play. And I'm thinking, Lord, thank you for letting us get this far. What next? I'm thinking, I even had the pastor from Siloam Baptist Church. He asked, could he speak to the team? I said, sure, Pastor, just help yourself. And he gave a speech on crossing the Rubicon. That's how far the gap was. And somehow we stayed with them. And we ended up losing by 6, but we hung in there. But I thought, what a great opportunity to get to the state championship, and you're going to play probably the best high school team in the history of the state of South Carolina. That was our choice. Yeah. So yeah, at that point I'm thinking, I mean, what's the use of getting there if that's what you got to do? I mean, my goodness. But no, I never entered the coaching profession with the idea of, man, win a state championship or you're not worth anything. It's like, in the NBA, they always say, you have to have a ring, or else, you haven't won a thing. So getting it was awesome. It really was. But if we didn't win, I could have dealt with that, because I knew there was nothing more we could do than we did. We couldn't have prepared any harder. We couldn't have done anything different. And, you feel better when you go in a game if you know you've done everything you can do to be ready. Mm-hmm. And our saying is, if you're ready, then you don't have to get ready. So we were ready. And we were ready, we try to be ready every time we play. That way you don't have to get ready. So that, I could have dealt with it, and it's the first time in all these years like the hardest thing to do at the end of the season is go in that locker room and thank your seniors and say goodbye. You know, that's the hardest thing. So all these years, that 1 year, you know, we didn't have to say goodbye. We didn't have to, you know, we came back to the school. I remember riding back to school and Jason McQueen said, "Coach, can we cut down the nets when we get back to school?" I said, "You're darn right we can. We'll cut both of them down
There you
if you
go.
want to, because the high school league won't let you cut them down,
Right.
you know, because they're afraid there's going to be a fight or something, you know." The only fight we'd have had was who gets the cut first.
Right.
But yeah, so we went back and cut the nets down. Then somewhere during our stretch there, Johnson says, "We're going to cut our hair." I said, "Coach, are you in?" I said, "Heck, I'm in." So
I remember that.
He called the lady that cuts his hair, and she came up there that night and cut our hair. My wife's going, she didn't know. And somebody said, after I'd already had it cut, she said, "You better call Debbie and tell her you got your hair shaved." I said, "Why?" I said, "That's no big deal." She says, you know, at the time, "You're 74 years old." You know? I said, "Not tonight, I'm not." I said, "I'm a kid." So yeah, it was funny. Heck, I kept it like that for a long time. I liked it.
Well, we got to wrap up here. We're running a little overtime because I keep texting Johnny to call. I don't know whether he's asleep or what's going on, but I did want to ask you before we go, you know, what's next? You're still teaching part-time. So what?
And, you know, like I still haven't got to where I can, like I'm not, like I'm a basketball junkie, and I'll be that way till I die. So, like I watch the NBA games. You know, a lot of people don't like the NBA, but I do. I like it. I like watching it. You know, I have to kind of break myself a little bit, like this time of year, because there's so many games on. I could be, you know, like they'll start, like on a weekend, they'll start like 1:30, and then the last game's at 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I do have a life, and I'd like somewhere in there I go like, well, I can play golf during the Cleveland game. Yeah, I can play golf during the Cleveland Miami game, and the other, you know, that gives me 4 hours right there, and then I can be back and watch the Lakers and the Minnesota or whatever.
You weren't missing anything in the Cleveland-Miami series.
No,
that's for sure.
no, that's the other thing I'm thinking. Yeah, it's like, and I, because of my son being in California for 10 years, they're Lakers, and then I worked LeBron's camp for about 10 years, so I'm a LeBron guy. So I'm watching the Lakers, and now they traded for Luka. It's a pretty good watch, you know. So I'll still be a basketball junkie. I mean, here's the crazy thing. I'm watching something, and I'm going like, what'd they just do there? Like an NBA game going. And I'll go, YouTube. I'll look it up, and I'll go like I watched the last second play, and I go, found it on YouTube, looked at it, I said, man, that's pretty good, you know. So I can't keep from doing that. I can't, you know.
You're a coach.
I'll be a coach. It'll be on my tombstone, coach. I can't help that. But I know we have the right person to
no pressure at all, Coach.
no
Jackson.
pressure. No. Listen, he's played a lot of basketball, and he's coached basketball. The pressure is all internal for him to.
And he's been on that sideline with you for a long time.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he knows what it takes, and he knows the way we have to play for us to be successful at Red. There's no other way we can play it. We have to play it the way we play, and he knows that, and he's not gonna accept anything less than that. I mean, that's what I feel good about. I feel good that the same things that I preached all those years when he was a player and a coach, he's gonna speak the same message, and because he's a part of the message.
All right. Well, that's a great way to end it. But we do have one last segment that we do with all of our guests, and that is our recommendation segment. There are two areas. This has become popular because it helps me find new places to eat and new books to read and movies to watch. So we want to ask, we've got 3 guests here tonight. So Blake, you'll be in on this too. We asked first, entertainment, if there's any entertainment that you can recommend, a book that you're reading, something that you're streaming, binging, a movie that you're watching, something like that, some sort of entertainment. And then we'll come back around and ask you about food, whether it's something, new recipe that you found, or a lot of times it's a restaurant and a particular dish that you like at that particular restaurant. So, Blake, we'll start with you on the entertainment thing. What can you recommend to our listeners?
I'm probably the worst person to start this off, but
That's why I started it.
I don't know if everyone is a NASCAR fan, but this past weekend, a guy named Cletus McFarland ran in an ARCA race, and he is exactly what you think about when you think of NASCAR racing. And he has a YouTube, and you can search it, and they took a trip from all the way, it was somewhere in the southeast, all the way to Talladega with Greg Biffle, who's a really famous NASCAR driver, and they buy $5,000 RVs and put really drag race engines in them and drive them all the way to Talladega, race them on dirt tracks for 5 laps. It is a very high quality watch if you get around to it.
Yeah. All right. Coach Campbell, some form of entertainment you can recommend.
Well, I tell you, I told you, the 30 for 30,
Yeah.
Bobby Knight, you would really enjoy it because at least you have a little bit of age where you remember what Bobby Knight was like. I was mesmerized last night watching that. Now, I got my own shows I like, but I just threw that in there off the top of my head.
What other shows do you like? I'm curious.
Well, I'm a person that I'm a history person, so I like historical things, and I also like suspense, and I do the Netflix series, and I do like police detective series and stuff like that. That's what I like.
All right, that's cool. A lot of good documentaries out there, historical stuff and all that. That's very interesting. All right, Coach Jackson.
All right, piggyback on Coach Campbell. He's my coach. We always went on Christmas tournament trips. He always took us somewhere historical. I did see the movie Sinners.
Yeah, did you like that?
Recently.
I've heard a lot about it. Most people
Yes,
like it. Some people
and-
said it was all right.
I mean, it's got some things in it, but very historical.
Yeah.
And a lot of subliminal messages in the movie. It's more than just the movie, to be honest.
Okay.
Like really a lot of interesting things in it. And like I said, me always being around him, it takes place in Mississippi, 1930s. It's a lot of different things going on. But the show I watch is The Irrational, and it's about a professor, and he's talking about police. So the FBI, they use him to help solve crimes, and he talks about irrational behavior. That's how he solves it.
Irrational.
Really good show.
Okay.
It is good. I watched the one with numbers, where the guy solves it, and then there's another one on, I think it's on Apple. I love the Ted Lasso.
Dang.
Yes.
That was my favorite. There's nothing compared to that. There's another one on there. I'm trying to think. It's about a mathematician, almost like where he's got a board full of, and he's coming up with some kind of theory about he's figured out a way that everybody is like messing with our minds, like, and so they're afraid he's going. So now they're hunting him down. He's having to hide. It's like crazy. I like some of the Apple TV stuff. It's
Yeah,
really
they got some good stuff on
really
there.
good.
Yeah.
And my problem is if I start watching it, I go like, well, let me get one more.
Yeah,
in before I
exactly.
go to bed. Yeah.
Then
And
before you
next
know,
thing
it's 2 o'clock in the
it's
morning.
2 o'clock in the morning, and you got to get up at 7.
And then you're also mad at yourself because you binged the whole thing and there's no more to watch.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
got nothing to look forward to. All right, Blake, let's move on to food. I know you're a foodie from way back. He used to do a show on this radio station called The Meat Locker, where they would talk about food and sports. So I know this guy is...
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to shout out a guy that I went to high school with. So it's a small business.
Okay.
It's Rory's Pizza. It's in Easley. I don't know the address. You
Rory
can probably,
he played at Red. His
yeah,
brother
Rory.
played too.
He played basketball at Pattersville, I think, before he transferred to Wren. His small
You're
business.
talking about the son.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about the dad.
Yeah, this is the son. He's got his own pizza business. I believe he's also sells the donuts as well beside it. But it is really good. It's got butter crust pizza. It's definitely something that everyone's
Really
got.
that good?
Yeah, it's good.
So that's where is it located
It's
again?
in Easley. You can definitely search on Facebook.
Powdersville.
Oh,
there
well,
Yeah.
it's a fine line there.
Yeah.
Where,
They're all on top of each other.
yeah, exactly.
It's right by Old Pendleton Road.
Yep.
All right, Coach, give me a food recommendation.
I usually go to Coach Jackson for the recommendations.
I do have one.
Yeah, he's got. It depends on the city you're in. Like if I'm going to Spartanburg, that he always tells me I need to go to.
Ike's.
Ike's.
Oh, yes.
Ike's.
They're fries.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're
continues
Way
amazing.
better than the Beacon.
And
Okay,
then
yeah.
The other one in Spartanburg
Ike's.
is what Ways. Is that
Yeah.
Ways is a meat and 3 place. It's really
Okay.
good. And then of course the Beacon.
Right.
We used to take the team there anytime we went to Spartanburg, and we had a guy helping us named Pete Beasley, and he's deceased now, but he was like awesome, just went everywhere with us. But he couldn't stand to go in there because when you go in there, the guy that takes your order hollers at you. He goes,
Yeah.
"What do you have? What do you have? Next, what do you have?" And he'd make him all nervous. So he'd tell me, he says, "I want the cheeseburger." He said, "I'm going to go sit down."
All right, that's a couple of it when we're up that way. Getting Spartanburg. How about you, Coach?
Firebirds. It's right on Woodruff Road.
Uh-huh.
They have the best Philly cheesesteak ever.
Oh, there you go. Now you're speaking my language. There you go.
One in Easley is good. What's a
Inky's.
Inky's?
Inky's
You tried
been
that?
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Firebirds is right on Woodruff Road.
Okay.
Really good.
Yeah, Inky's, those guys are from Philly, right? Yeah, that was the whole
Yeah.
point, yeah.
Have you tried Dave's Hot Chicken or whatever over on Woodruff?
I had
They
tried
have
that.
They have a Philly.
Do they?
Yeah.
The chicken is very hot.
Yeah.
I will say that. All right. Well, that'll about do it for the show. I mean, we could go on for another hour or so talking. But Coach Campbell, congratulations on your semi-retirement. I know you haven't made it official, and I know you'll be doing some other things, but whatever you do, I know it's going to be good. So thank you for everything you've done for all the student athletes that have come through Wren. They've been blessed. You talk about community. It starts with having a coach that's there for a long time that cares about them, that keeps that community growing. And you've done great things beyond 738 wins. And it's just been an honor to have you here today.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. I always like a chance to talk.
And Coach Darrell Jackson, who is now the new Wren basketball coach, congratulations on getting a job that I know you've wanted for years, and you'll be stepping in there. And yeah, he's right. You're stepping in for a legend, but you've worked beside him for years, so it's probably the most comfortable transition they could possibly have there at Wren High School. So congratulations to you, and I'm sure we'll have you on talking about basketball in the future.
Thank you.
All right, and Blake, thanks for stopping by.
Always
our
come by
former
when you need
student.
me.
Yeah. So good to see you. We'll see where the Wren Broadcast Network goes from here. And yes, Holly?
I just wanted to thank you for, I know that we had talked in the past where we've had some student issues, and you were always very supportive of our decisions here, making sure that students follow through here as well as follow through on a court, and that makes a big difference. So we appreciate that.
I think that a coach has a lot of leverage.
You do.
And, you know, basically, teachers should take advantage of that. You know, we try to encourage that, you know, like their first role is a student. So let's make sure and it's going to be the same way with Coach Jackson. He's not going to play around with that. It's not going to be an option to misbehave. It's not going to be an option not to turn your work in. That's not the way. You know, we're trying to teach them to be good young men and citizens, and that's, you know, as the saying goes, it's non-negotiable.
That's right.
So
Well, we appreciate it, and we look forward to great things for you, Coach Jackson.
Yes. And
Put the
by the
pressure on
way,
him.
Blake, Coach Jackson does not look like the guy you want to mess with.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be very
We'll see how
serious.
post-game
about that.
coaches shows go.
All right, thanks again, guys. Next week we have Robbie Roach on from Palmetto High School
Hey.
on the next
student
episode.
teacher from me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. So make sure you bring that up.
Okay.
Tell him, you know, he was a little, wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, you know.
I guess he's all right. We'll see.
I guess
We will-
he's overcome it, one to two.
Thanks for listening or watching the Boone Show tonight. Pleasure to have you. We'll talk to you again next week.
Robbie Roach. Yes, he was a student teacher.
Tell you, my daughter Sky, she really